Welcome to another edition of Interview with the Author. And today I'm proud to be interviewing Fraser Hosford, who is the author of Down with This Sort of Thing: How is the Gospel Good News in Contemporary Ireland? Hello, Fraser. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, John. Thanks for having me on. Nice to see you.
No bother at all. It's good to finally see each other in person after the emails back and forth.
Exactly.
So it's good to connect with a fellow Christian in Ireland. It's a community is so important, especially these days.
Indeed.
So Fraser, can you just maybe firstly give us a bit about yourself, about your background, maybe about growing up, where you grew up, and a short testimony as well about your life?
Yeah, so my name's Fraser. I work with Dublin West Community Church. So that's on the west side of Dublin. I'm married to Ruth and we have 3 kids and a dog. So that's sort of where I am now. I still work part-time as an economist in public policy as well. So I sort of mix and match the 2 jobs. I grew up in Dublin, so I've sort of been here most of my life, apart from a few years we lived in the UK. So I grew up on the south side of the city, sort of standard enough upbringing, I think, nothing too remarkable to point to. And then sort of faith-wise, when you ask my testimony, we went to church as a family on a Sunday to a Methodist church, and would have gone to a few camps here and there, different things that were going on. Scripture Union, I think, if I'm trying to rack my brain. And then I remember for myself having a real faith moment at 17. So that was my final year in school, just before I was doing the Leaving Cert actually. And in the Methodist church, certainly where I was at that time, rather than confirmation, we called it being received into full membership of the church. And it tends to be when you're a bit of an older teen, and the guy at the time just brought us through lots of discussions about the nature of faith and who Jesus was and evidence for Jesus. And I just felt things falling into place over that year, and questions arising within me. And I'd have always sort of taken at face value what we got at church, and considered myself someone who I guess was a Christian, someone who believed. But something happened during that year. I think a lot of it was, some of the bits I remember even now were looking at the evidence for Jesus. I remember watching a video of a guy presenting the evidence, and he was in Israel at the time, overlooking maybe Lake Galilee or somewhere like that. And I think just seeing the physical place, it just suddenly dawned on me that nature of the incarnation, of God entering into our worlds, God coming to us to where we were, and just sort of became real. So I made a faith commitment at the end of that.
Wow, that's a good testimony to have, that you were in the church obviously through your childhood, but also that you gave that commitment in your teenage years. And you're now a pastor of a church in Dublin, am I right, Fraser?
Yeah. So Dublin West Community Church, it's about 30 years old. We're sort of Greater Blanchardstown, part of the city, that side. Obviously people travel from maybe outside of that as well, but that sort of greater west side of the city area is where we're based. I was going to say we meet in the school hall. At the moment we meet over Zoom, but that's where we'd normally be meeting. So I've been there, I think, about 10 years now.
Okay. And we're just talking about Fraser's book today, Down with This Sort of Thing. What was the reason that you decided to write this book, Fraser?
Yeah, I guess the immediate reason was I was encouraged to write it by 1 or 2 people. So that was the spur. I wasn't planning on writing a book. It's my first book, my only book to date. So I guess you need some sort of spur or encouragement to start off. And it started in a conversation with a friend and with someone, I guess, who was a bit older, a bit of a mentor probably, and just having a conversation about this, the church in Ireland, and where faith was in Ireland generally, how people perceived church and faith, and talking through those issues. And someone's like, you need to write some of this down. You need to share these thoughts with other people. And I just sort of found that actually, I think it was probably the day after that conversation, some thoughts just sort of were flooding into my mind, and I just sort of noted them, and just sort of went from there, really. So that was the immediate spur.
Okay, and could you give us a synopsis of the book? You're basically talking about a picture of the church for maybe Irish people and for people abroad of what is going on in Ireland at the moment. Is it more culturally based, or a mixture of church and society based as well?
Yeah, I think after getting that spur, I mean, the thoughts that were already there within me and stuff have largely come from, I guess, what maybe is about 10 years of being a pastor and preaching and teaching, and trying to listen to the culture, to society, what people are thinking, and getting a sense of where things are at. So I probably would describe the book as trying to give a sense of where Ireland is at in its attitude towards faith, and then trying to maybe express the good news of Jesus in a fresh way, and trying to show that there are connection points, and that some of the needs and desires of people in contemporary Ireland can be met through Jesus, and trying to maybe start some of that conversation. So it is a bit of gospel and culture, and where those two things intersect. And when you take any topics like that, I'm sure there's probably no one who'll agree with all that's being written. But I think the questions and that it'll maybe spark within you are well worth thinking through yourself. So yes, that's sort of where it came from.
Okay. And do you think, like, obviously we can see from a lot of statistics and polls that there is maybe a negative view of traditional churches? I guess the biggest church in Ireland would be, and still is, the Catholic Church. And obviously numbers are decreasing in the Catholic Church. But do you think it's also a new awakening of maybe Christians to be bolder in their faith, and also that people are kind of open up to different kinds of, we'll say, Christianity, not what they would have grown up in school, or the traditional Catholic view of Christianity?
Yeah, so there's a few chapters which talk about, I think the God on the cultures, plural, of modern Ireland, and talk about that sense, how there's the old Ireland and now the new Ireland, how Ireland has changed, and so our attitude to faith has changed, and what that looks like. And then there's a chapter which is called Faith in a Post-Religious Culture. So looking at that sense in which we are now post-religious, and that's maybe a certain age group, but also in Ireland there's an anti-religious feel to that post-religious thing. So that I think the nature of the secularism that we're moving into now is different from what you might get in the UK or in continental Europe. So it's important for us to be aware of that. But what intrigues me is how Jesus, when he interacted in his ministry, he came up against religious people, and they were actually the people that he argued with the most. And then he defined himself in opposition to those people. So I think there's a bit of a model there for us as to how we talk about faith in this culture. So I try to look a little bit about our views of faith as Irish people, and then how Jesus might deal with that, and then also some of the newer values of our culture, such as freedom and individualism and stuff, and how there'll be chapters on them, how we can relate faith and the teachings of Jesus to those values as well.
Cool. Well, it's great. And we're just talking to Fraser here today, Down with This Sort of Thing. It's available from us at Teach Solas, and I'd recommend, if you want to try to understand what's happening in the church at the moment in Ireland, and culturally what's happening in Ireland, it's a great book to read. And just before we go, Fraser, are there any books that you've come across, I guess specific Christian titles that you came across through the years that have helped you in your Christian faith, and that you would recommend maybe to some of our viewers?
Yeah, there's probably quite a lot at different stages. That story I told at the start about my faith commitment was 1994, so that's a while ago. So there's been a fair few books in those years. I did think of one which I have here, Dallas Willard, only because I'm reading that guy at the moment. That's with a group of men in church. It's called Hearing God by Dallas Willard. And
we have that available actually. Yeah, it's a good one.
Brilliant. We didn't rig that. That just happens to be. But yeah, no, I've been enjoying that, and I mean, he's got good insights. He always does. There's a few chapters which I found a little bit heavier than some others, but he's really good insights. But more than that, reading through it with a group, I found it renewing my desire to hear from God day to day as I've been reading it. So it's been really, speaking to my heart as well as my head as I've been reading it. So I'm enjoying that at the moment. Yeah.
Cool. That's great to hear. It's always good to hear. Obviously, the Bible is our first foundation with everything, but it's always good to read different perspectives and how people connect with God in different ways, and they can give us a great insight and connect with us in different ways. So I just want to thank you, Fraser, for being with us today. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. It wasn't too grueling, this interview. And I just want to thank all our viewers as well for watching again, and hope to see you next time. Bye now.
Great. It's been a pleasure, John. Thank you. Bye now.